And away we go. And welcome in, fine friends. What a show we have for you tonight, as always, but just any day you have two Monday night games, you got NLCS, you got a lot of things happening. Very fun times indeed. The weather, at least here in Michigan, where I'm at, is getting chillier. We're getting close to Halloween, the World Series, obviously the big meaty part of the NFL schedule. So much to get to. And later in the show, we're going to talk with a legendary figure. It is my man, Bob Long, who is the proprietor, the genius, the legendary figure that launched the Fantasy Football Expo, which I know is one of the big events on the calendar year for anyone that plays fantasy football. I know our great team, Trent Ayer, the great CEO of Bull Rush, and Neil and Davin III, all have been there before. It's just a meeting of the minds. I believe it's in the Football Hall of Fame, right? In Canton. So, or in that area at least. We're going to talk with Bob Long about a lot of stuff coming up in about 20 or so minutes. We will get to my Squatch same game Monday Night Football parlay, as always. Later in the show, my look ahead picks. We're going to take a look at some of the plays I hit on, and unfortunately some that were heartbreaking losses this week. And next week, we've got another Monday Night twofer. I know that some of you out there are like, I love it. I have no problem with 5 Monday Night Football games, even though I know sometimes they overlap and annoys people. And some will say, oh, it cheapens the ability to be on Monday Night Football if you have multiple Monday night games on the same night. But to me, the more the merrier. Primetime games are great. The NFL is king. But next week, we're going to have a special time. We'll have to figure out exactly if we're going to do the show still at 6. But I'll be covering the Lions-Bucks game. That's part of my look ahead coming up later in the show. It'll be surprising being a Lions fan and someone that covers the team who I might like in that game. That's a little tease for you. But back-to-back weeks of 2 Monday Night Football games. Tonight, they're overlapping. Next week, I know that the Raiders play second at 10. Lions-Bucks is first at 7 p.m. So it's right as things get going tonight. You have the 2 games tonight with the first game at 7 and the second game at 8:15 when it comes to the 2 for this, this tonight, Bills and 7:15 is the official kickoff. But Bills Falcons first and Bears Commanders at 8:15. Bills Falcons on ESPN and Bears Commanders on ABC. But I want to get into a couple things here on the top of the show. But first, I just want to remind everybody, if you have not yet gotten involved in the fantasy football contest, I'm sorry, the fantasy football. We're talking with Bob Long, so I'm thinking fantasy football. If you've not yet gotten involved with the Bull Rush Survivor contest, I don't know what you're waiting for. Unfortunately, if you didn't get involved before the season started, you could be in the main draw on its own. But every week there are satellite contests. And all you have to do is pay $20. If you use the code EDGE when you go to bullrush.com, you save $5, so it's really $15. And if you finish in the top 10 places, you advance into the main Bull Rush Survivor contest. So for those that are joining us for the first time here on The Edge, I don't know where you've been, but thank God you're here. Tell all your friends, family, and former roommates about it, because all we do is cash tickets and give you the best insight and info into what's going on in football and even some other sports at times too. I'm going to get to baseball here and college football in a second. But a lot of you out there, I'm sure, are familiar with what a Survivor contest is. And it's picking a team once a week. You can only use that team once. And if you keep surviving the whole way, you can win some money. It's awesome. I play them myself. But one of the main reasons that I loved partnering with Bull Rush to do this show, and for many other reasons, but one of the main ones is the forward thinking that they have come up with when it comes to a Survivor contest without just picking one team. You can pick 50 teams or 50 bets. It's all about making wagers when it comes to each and every week. You get $100,000 in virtual money. The minimum is 2 bet slips. So, if you want to do 500 or 5,000, go ahead. But as long as you have 2 bet slips each week to make whatever plays you want, it could be 5-leg parlays for points, point spreads or totals. It could be a 50-leg parlay with props. It could be a mix of both. It could be a one bet on a money line. and 99,000 on one team and a dollar on the other, whatever you want to do. And if you finish in the top 80% each week, you advance. Once you get to week 11, there's cash prizes for first, second, and third. And anyone that wins a week immediately gets advanced to week 20, where first place is $50,000 cash. So please check that out. Go to bullrush.com, use the code EDGE, and you get $5 off. So it's only $15 instead of $20 to get into the satellite. Finish in the top 10, you're in the main draw. It's awesome. Before we get to what we saw in week number 6, which is going to end tonight with the Monday Night Twofer, and the week that was in the NFL, couple things here. First, I gave out the Blue Jays before the playoffs started on this show to win the World Series. I think they were 7-1. I boosted it to almost 10-1. I still love it. I'm not happy with what happened last night. You had a home run to start the game with Springer, and you lose it 3-1 because your offense goes to complete sleep. It's going to be very important for there's the 2 games tonight, actually, one starting right now. It's going to be very important for the Blue Jays to win game 2. You don't want to go for 3 in a row in Seattle, down 0-2. I still think the Blue Jays are the best team in baseball right now. Yes, better than the Dodgers because offensively and pitching-wise combined, they're just a little better than LA. But boy, that Seattle team, after ripping my heart out in the 15-inning, longest winner-take-all postseason game in the history of baseball, take down my Tigers. How many times did the Tigers get out of absurd situations? Like 5 or 6 innings in a row is nuts. But that was a game where I'll never forget both how incredible it was and how devastated I was after. But I still love the Blue Jays. And also, how about finally, if you're a Penn State fan, or some of them likes to make fun of them, they finally, after 12 years, fire big game James Franklin. Obviously, I'm joking by saying big game. I used to, and I'm glad I was wrong, being a big Michigan Wolverine fan on the various different shows that I've done, and I've covered Michigan for years. At one point, Jim Harbaugh, I would go through the list of all of his games through his first 4 years, 5 years, 6 years before everything turned around, going into year 7. I would count the biggest games he coached, and at least the 10 biggest, some of the Ohio State games, bowl games, games on the road against Iowa, where Michigan could run in the playoff early in his tenure. He lost every one of them. If you use that number for James Franklin now in 12 years at Penn State, maybe he's won 1 or 2 of the top 30 biggest games that Penn State played during his tenure. They never were going to win with him there. He could coach in big games. I have a good friend, my friend Brian Chapman. I call him Hackman because he's a great guy, but a terrible radio host. And I love Brian. I kid. He was trying to defend him the last couple of years. I said, listen, as long as he's patrolling the sidelines in Unhappy Valley, they're never going to do anything. They lose at home to Northwestern, and in the middle of this season, fire him. That just shows you how pissed off the school and the board and the athletic department and the powers that be at Penn State were to fire him in the middle of this, because this guy had brought them to some solid, heights at times. I mean, they obviously never won a national title and never really, I think, had a great chance to, but they won some games, some nice big games when he was there, and were ranked to the top 3 and had their chances. But to do it in the middle of the season, that just lets you know they're like, we're done. It's over. So I thought that was fascinating to see James Franklin get ballyhooed out after a loss at home to Northwestern. And, when Penn State couldn't get the job done against Oregon, everything changed. And that, to me, is when they because the next week you knew that there was going to be a total letdown when it came to, after the brutal loss the week before to Oregon in overtime. The 2 weeks ago is the Oregon loss. Then they lose to UCLA, who obviously just beat Michigan State and killed them, and is a much better team than they were a few weeks ago. But you knew after that letdown loss in overtime to Penn State and that 18th ever whiteout in Happy Valley, that it was going to show you everything about James Franklin, how they performed the next game. Not that they had to go out there and kill UCLA, but then they were so devastated and so ill-prepared that they got whacked around by a UCLA team that's improving, but isn't that good. And then to lose at home to Northwestern as, what were they, 28-point favorites, something like that, 24 and a half, it was over. And that's the end of James Franklin at Penn State. But let's get into some NFL. We'll start. It was, as I've coined it, the Death to Detroit sports weekend. Every one of our teams, Michigan State, Michigan, the Tigers, in that epic, just absolutely incredible 15-inning ALDS winner-take-all game, the longest ever in the history of baseball. As far as winner-take-all games go, they all lose. Then the Red Wings over the weekend were down 2-0 to the Maple Leafs. Regular season game, who cares? But anyway, they were down 2-0 to the Maple Leafs. The Red Wings have gotten off to a bad start and missed the playoffs for years now after that 25 straight run. Steve Yzerman not doing a great job for what it seems like, when things matter. And the Red Wings came back and scored like 5 of the next 6 goals. They're the only team that had won going into last night's big Sunday night football game with the Lions, who I believe coming into the game, best team in the NFC, second best in the NFL behind the Bills. Big test on the road against a KC team that did not look great, was just 2-3, the worst start in the Mahomes era. And I thought the wrong team was favored. The Chiefs were 2.5-point favorites. And I love the Lions on the Monday night. We talked about this on the show last week. And the Lions started great. Threw a touchdown pass from David Montgomery to Jared Goff that was called back for a late flag. And whether it was right or not, from that point on, things kind of went to heck. Lions got behind the 8 ball. They seemed to start pressing. The offense kind of went away. In big moments, Jared Goff could get the job done, even though he was 23-29 for 203 yards and a couple touchdown passes to Jameson Williams and Sam Laporta. But you got to give credit to Kansas City. Kansas City. Because that's a Chiefs team that if they had lost that game, would have dropped to 2-4. And in the AFC right now, and we'll get to Davonshire's Ravens, quote them evermore in a minute here, they're 1-5. But 2-4 in this AFC right now, not good. To get home and get the job done after the Chiefs lost that heartbreaking game last Monday night to Jacksonville, do it on a short week, have Mahomes do Mahomes things, 22-30 for 257, 3 touchdowns, a super high quarterback rating. Kelsey was amazing again after starting the season kind of slow, 6 receptions for 78 yards. Probably should have had a touchdown. The Lions defense could not stop the Chiefs in big spots. Like I said, Jared Goff wasn't bad. He had a quarterback rating of 118. But in big moments, Jared Goff makes plays in a much higher clip than he did last night. And Gibbs had 17 carries for 65 yards. That's not going to be enough. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 9 catches, but just for 45 yards. That guy normally has over 100 yards receiving. Jameson Williams was a standout. He had 6 receptions for 66 yards and that 22-yard bomb early in the game, but it just wasn't enough offense. Lions are not going to beat Kansas City at Arrowhead by scoring 17. And I really think, whether you think that it was the right call or not, that motion on the David Montgomery to Goff touchdown pass, it was tough, man. It was a tough situation because that things kind of went downhill from there. But I wonder if you think the Chiefs are back. I mean, they're 3-3. They have not looked great this year. They come off, losing the Super Bowl, which we know there's a thing called the Super Bowl hangover. They've lost to the Chargers, lost to the Eagles, barely beat the Giants, did beat a bad Ravens team, and then lost to the Jaguars. But Mahomes in those games, wins or losses, at times does not look like vintage Patrick Mahomes. Last night, he did. Think about all the times he got out of tackles. Could have been sacked by Hutch multiple times. Hutch did get 1 sack. But he was as elusive as ever, as confident as ever. And I was very impressed. It was tough as a Lions fan to watch Detroit lose a game I thought they were going to win. But it's not a bad loss to lose at Arrowhead. I just think the Lions played way below the level that they've been playing at. And then the post-game stuff with Deion Branch, who's obviously going to get fined. And I will tell you this. I love the players. I covered that team for a long time, for much of my life, the Lions. And for years, they had bad players, not just talent-wise, but just bad people, not like classy guys, not team guys. Dan Campbell and Holmes have completely flipped that on its head. They have such classy citizens in that locker room, whether it's people like Jahmyr Gibbs or Hutchinson or Ancelotti. There are so many people that are a joy to cover. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Montgomery. There's just great players up and down that roster. Not to say that Brian Branch isn't. He's a good player. Not to say that he's like a jerk or he's a bad, has bad character. what he did last night after the game with Juju Smith-Schuster, and I'm glad that Dan Campbell came out right away and said, I love Brian Branch. What he did was completely inexcusable. It was stupid. It was dumb. It was BS. You don't sucker punch someone. Smith-Schuster had blood running down his nose. It was just dumb. I know that Branch said he's tired of being pushed around and not getting calls. That's fine. Be as fired up as you want. Show some class after a loss. That was, to me, the opposite of what the lines are, why this city has embraced Dan Campbell and is all grit, mantra and biting the kneecaps and, we're going to punch you in the mouth. That's great. Do it like Mahomes kind of cryptically or shadily said after the game. We worry about between the whistles, not after the game. That's why they've won multiple Super Bowls. So I thought that was classless by Branch, and hopefully, I know he's already apologized, and hopefully he'll learn from that. By the way, before we get to some more games here, I want to show some of my hits and misses from the weekend. I woke up to a brilliant package of Gobble Monsters from my man Davonshire and the Bull Rush team. First off, who doesn't love a spongy, soft football? Then I got some koozies. I'm 14 years sober. I can use these for energy drinks. Then I got a bunch of new shirts, including this sick polo, and I love it. So big thanks to Davonshire. I believe it was delivered by a Harry Potter owl. So I was very excited about that. But if we can, David, before we get to the rest of the games, as a look back here, and we're going to get to Bob Lung in a minute, let's look at some of the hits and misses of the Squatches Week 6. And like I said, I give you a lot of winners on this show, and to my good friends and members of DTMSquatchPicks.club. But there's times where obviously I don't win everything, and there's a lot of heartbreak. Let's start with the heartbreak if we can, Davin, with those round robin touchdown parlays I had, and then the lines from last night. So this is from last night. I loved Worthy scoring, and I love Laporta scoring. I was deciding whether to throw Gibbs in there, who's been incredible and has scored a ton of touchdowns, or to put in Jameson Williams. Obviously, Jameson Williams won, scored a touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs did not. And the rest they say is history. That if I had put Jameson Williams in there, 50 would have paid like, I think it was almost $1,200 or $1,300. So that was an almost, at least it was a no sweat token. But then let's go to the play on the game. Oh no, we can do this first. So this actually hit a little. I won a little on this. And I've told you people that if you're going to do multiple leg parlays, especially like touchdown parlays, always consider doing the parlay itself and then a separate ticket as a round robin. If you don't know what a round robin is, let's say, if you're a soccer fan, the World Cup, there's, they play each other in that group stage. Everyone plays everybody. That's what this is. This is a 3s times 2. So all you have to do is have 2 of them hit, and you're going to win some money. Depending on the sports book, you sometimes cannot do like 3s by, like having 3 of the 4. It'd have to be times 2 instead of times 3 wagers, because if they're part of the same game, sometimes you can do it, other times you can't. But because you obviously see here, there was 2 touchdowns from the Titans game. I should have kept Ridley out, just on a 3-leg one. But Warren got the job done. He's been incredible. Definitely Rookie of the Year candidate. Ashton Jetty's been incredible. He's, I think, the favorite to win Rookie of the Year right now. And then Chase, I knew because I figured the Bengals would be down way more than they were. But I figured he would get in there once, and he did in that loss to Green Bay. So I didn't get all 4 legs of this. It would have paid a little more. But this way, all I needed to do is get 2 of those 4. And if you get 3 of the 4, you're going to win even more. And I was able to profit a little there. But let's go to the one from last night's game, Davin, where I missed out on that Gibbs craziness, if you will. Fire that in there, friend, or not. There it is. So I loved this. Before the game, I put it together. I gave it to my people, DTMSquatchPicks.club. Golf 2 passing touchdowns. Obviously, that's all he had. But that way, Brown had 9 receptions. I knew Jameson Williams would get more than 30 yards. Kelsey, obviously had a ton of, I think he would have 6. And Hollywood Brown's been ridiculous. All I needed was 3 receptions from Jahmyr Gibbs, who's averaging like 4.5 a game, or at least, over 4 most of the games this year. Had 1. Got it early. That was it. So that was almost 8-1. That was a heartbreak. But I did sizzle this, if we can, Domin, from the one, I keep wanting to say noon, from the 1 p.m. starts. It was one of my favorite 4-leggers ever, because sometimes you don't have to worry about doing tons of legs and taking less of a risk. Sometimes you just go and throw it out there. The only thing I hedged here with was Harrison's 30 yards because I think his total was like 46 and a half. And I will tell you this, he got those 32 yards before he got hurt at halftime. So I would have lost this. Warren, I mean, he had 81. Was it? Yeah, he had, or I'm sorry, 51. Warren is just, his numbers are so great to bet on, to wager on right now, because this guy is just breaking all these kind of early season records for rookie tight ends. He's awesome. And then I just did straight Bryce Young 2 touchdown passes, Drake May 2 touchdown passes, and it paid over 8 something to 1. So that was my favorite play of yesterday, but a lot of close misses. We'll continue to give you stuff on this show. We got stuff for you coming up later in the show as well. All right, before we get to my man Bob Long, a couple things I want to talk about here for what happened yesterday. We're going to talk about some more of the games later on in the show too, after we talk with Bob. But the Titans, and I talked about this before the season started, about loving Cam Ward, believing he's going to be special in Tennessee. Obviously, it's not going to be with Brian Callahan from Callahan Auto Parts. Just 6 games into the year, they're 1-5. After that ridiculous comeback, I don't know how they did it against Arizona in one of the most wacky confluences events ever. They looked awful again yesterday as the offense has struggled so much all season long. And it's a brand new quarterback. It's a first overall pick. It's going to take time. But that Titans team was garbage yesterday. Barely could move the ball. Raiders didn't even score that much. They only scored 20. And it still feels like the Raiders won that game by 50. They go down 20-10. Cam Ward, by the way, was 26 of 38 for 222 and a touchdown. But just not enough offense, a lot of mistakes, and they get rid of Callahan. You wonder what this means for Cam Ward. And to me, you better bring the right guy in, because if you bring the right head coach, whether he's going to be the play caller or bring in the right kind of offensive coordinator, Cam Ward could be special. Right now, that Titans team is a disaster. So it was the right move. Once again, another guy getting fired in the middle of the season. It doesn't happen as often as we've seen it these last few years. James Franklin at Penn State. I know UCLA fired their coach, and then you're seeing Callahan get fired, the first NFL coach to get fired this season, just 6 games in. But obviously, if they get the right pieces there for Cam Ward as far as the coaching staff, and they keep building around the lines for him, I still think he has got a chance to be really, 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 really special. And then another team that we've talked about a lot on this show is the Los Angeles Chargers. With my man Jim Harbaugh, they escape by the hair of their chin in a game they probably should have lost. But this is the way the Dolphins like to fold, and this is the way the Chargers like to come back and win final second games. They hang on in the end. They have a huge play from McConkey to get them in the field goal range, and they take down the Dolphins, who had just scored with 44 seconds left with Darren Waller. I think it was his 4th touchdown since he's come back for a few weeks now. They lose 29-27, move to 4-2. That was a huge win. You don't want to be 3-3 through 6 in that tough AFC. I still think the Chargers are an outside shot at the Super Bowl. We gave them out on this show before the season at 20-1. Those odds are down, especially after the win yesterday. I love Justin Herbert. I love what McConkey's doing. I think that Chargers defense can be really, really, really good with James and others. I mean, how can you not love what Keenan Allen still does? He didn't really do anything yesterday, but that's a good and well-coached Chargers team. And they're still, to me, I mean, my pick before the season was the Bills and the Commanders. I'm sticking with it, and the Bills winning it all. But they're a team that could definitely get there, and there's still value on taking them. Let me see the up to the second odds right now. The Chargers are 19-1. So they've been kind of floating down between 20 and 16-1, a game out of 20. Still think there's value there. And you could also look at them to win the conference. If you don't want a team to win it all, they're almost 10-1 to win the conference. So some things to look at, if you will. And, you know, the other side of things, the Dolphins keep blowing leads like soda pop. I know there's your K-pop reference. Just awful. Dolphins are an awful team. You feel for Tua. He's had too many concussions. They dropped to 1-5. McDaniel's going to be out. They're going nowhere. They're going to have to retool everything. I love A-Chain. He's ridiculous. He had 128 yards and 2 touchdowns on 16 carries yesterday in that loss. You can't fault him. Obviously, they lose Hill for the season. Waddle's a solid receiver. Darren Waller's been great coming back, you know, off the injury and becoming a Dolphin. So, I mean, I got a lot of friends that are Dolphins fans. They're in no man's land. They're going to probably have to like rebuild that franchise. And after Mike McDaniel, he was so young when he got hired, looked at as a wonder kid. As soon as year 2 and 3 started coming around, they started going backwards. But once again, as a lot of it's obviously on him, he's the head coach, but Tua and all the concussions has killed the franchise. And Tua's doing everything he can, wants to be out there every play, but he's not the same quarterback. It's almost like the Dolphins, are they doing a disservice to his health by trotting him out there? I mean, the kid, he wants to play. He knows what the risks are. It's not like he's, not willing to play and the Dolphins are forcing him to. He could just retire if he wanted to. He wants to play, as most football players will go out there and risk their life and limb to do it for their team, and obviously some for money as well. Can't blame him for either side. But yeah, just awful stuff with the Dolphins, and that McDaniels era is going to end unceremoniously, and hopefully they can find the right coach to help that franchise go forward as well. All right, we're going to talk with my man Bob Long, the man that started and launched the legendary Fantasy Football Expo. We'll get to Bob Long straight ahead, but here I want you to take a look at this first.
This isn't fantasy football, it's real competition. Welcome to the NFL Survivor Tournament. You versus the field. $100 to enter, $100,000 in total prizes, $50K to the winner. Start each week with a $100K bankroll. Pick games, win returns. Top 80% survive. Bottom 20%, you're out. Bankroll resets weekly, no carryover. 20 weeks, $100K. Will you take home the cash? Sign up, lock in, and let's see if you've got the guts to survive.
So get involved with that, fine friends, but let's get involved with my man Bob Long. He's got the Bull Rush shirt on. I just got my new polo, Bob.
I love it. How you doing, man?
Welcome in. I'm sorry that you and I have never met in person. It will happen soon, and it will change your life forever, and mine too.
I'm sure it will.
But great.
I already love you just watching the 5 or 10 minutes of you talking. It's like,
hey, listen, not to make excuses, I never would. But I'm playing hurt today. I don't know what is wrong. It might be the oysters from last night. I've been sick all day since like 4 a.m.
I thought that voice was natural. I'm like, man, that's a badass.
No, I'm just saying it's naturally awesome, but I'm still not feeling great. But for you, I would never miss it, Bob. I've heard so many great things about you, but I think that there's people out there, and most people that are watching this do know you. But for those few, maybe one or two in like Idaho, not that we don't like Idaho, that might not know about your story, you have created something so special that I know David and Trent and our great Bull Rush team were at, and it means so much to so many, this Fantasy Football Expo. Let people know kind of how that journey got you to that.
Well, I'll do a all the way back and all the way forward.
Start when you were one. I want to hear your favorite food as a toddler, please. Mine was pea.
So I started playing fantasy football in 1986. Long before it was cool.
We're talking newspaper, like having to use the newspaper.
Yeah, for years. Yeah, we did touchdown only. There's the league still exists. We're in year 40, 41 now. I think 7 of the 12 originals are still in. Still play touchdown only. We're as old school as old school can get. That then moved forward to 2002 when my team was very inconsistent, and I figured out that's what the problem was my players were very inconsistent, so I created the consistency model. Now, I won't say I'm the first because I was not. So our good friend from ESPN, and I just went brain dead on his name.
Matthew Berry?
No, way before.
I thought so.
He's still there. Tristan Cockcroft.
Yes.
So Tristan Cockcroft actually did in 1999 some consistency data. I had no idea, but so I created my thing, my calculations, moved forward for 14 years. So 2016, I then started putting out my own fantasy football consistency guide because people wanted that information. And they wanted it more in a book type scenario. So I started self-publish on Amazon, did that. And then 2018, I reached out to a lot of the bigger names in the industry, like Mike Clay, Andy Behrens, Dave Richards, Bob Harris, Howard Bender, Marcus Grant, and said, hey guys, the fantasy football community does not have a best of best live draft like fantasy baseball has had for years. I said, if I put on that event at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, would you guys all come? And they said yes. And so 2018, we created the Kings Classic Leagues that are now an annual event during Expo weekend. 2019, some people said, hey, it'd be cool if we had like an expo for all of the people that, are like me, who have a full-time job. We do this on the side. We have a passion. But Tony Romo's, $5,000 for a booth national convention in Dallas was a little bit out of our price tag. So I put together a very cost-efficient one in Canton, Ohio in 2019. COVID came in 2020, but we came back in 2021. 500 people showed up. And since then, we've had between 600 and 800 every year. It's a 3-day event, Canton, Ohio. We're actually moving it for the first time to the last full weekend in July. So it'll be July 24th through the 26th. And Bull Rush was there last year. Trent, all the guys, Davin, what a great time they had. We had, hoping that they'll be back again this year. I know I'm excited. I was in 12th place this week in the Bull Rush competition of the commercial you just showed. So I'm surviving. I'm not doing great, but I'm not doing terrible. So
above me right now, so I'm a little jealous. I'm like 29.
Yeah. But that's okay. Like you said, it resets every week. So all you got to do is survive, right? This is what it's all about. So that's my goal. I'm not sure I can win it, but if I can at least win some money, I'd be happy. But anyway, so that's the whole story. Like you said, put it together, did a lot of things over the history, and it's just been very blessed with all the love and support from the community and giving back to the community, and community gives to me. So it's just a big circle of love and support, and wouldn't have it any other way.
No, it's awesome, Bob. Like I said, we might not have met personally yet, but I've heard so many incredible things about you. The expo, obviously, as you mentioned, Davin and Trent and the Bull Rush people, were there. Mm-hmm. They loved it. It's created such a really special weekend for people to be together and celebrate something that means a lot. I mean, people might think, oh, fantasy football. It's fantasy football. It means so much, Bob, to so many people. And I'll give you a perfect example. And one of these days, I'm going to bring my nephew to this convention, to the expo. Cool. He's 14. He got into foot. He used to not even care about sports until he was like 8 years old. I think his friends started talking sports. He's like, I better get into this. But he is obsessed, Bob. And this kid will call me at 2 a.m. when I'm sleeping at 7 a.m. I'm like, Oren, I'm still sleeping. I call him the always, Oren. He is so into playing fantasy, and it just shows you it goes across all barriers, boundaries, race, creed, sex, age.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, Bob, it creates such a special thing for so many. So I want to thank you, as many people do, for what you have done to create this for the masses. So just kudos to you and what you've done with the expo, because I know it means a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I think you said it perfectly. This is an event that, as you mentioned, there is no color, there is no race, all there is fantasy football. I don't care if you're green, red, pink, black, yellow, orange, whatever.
Neptunian.
6'7" or 5'7". How fat you are, how skinny you are, girl, male, female, whatever. It's all about talking fantasy football and in that community coming together and just spending the weekend. Just, I said it's kind of like a cross between a family reunion, a college frat party reunion, because there's a lot of drinking, and a fantasy football drafts all rolled into one. And at the end of the weekend, a lot of people are like, I don't want to go home. It's like, I want to live in this world.
I don't want to grow up. I want to be a Toys R Us kid.
Yeah, right.
But I can't wait to be there in person.
I hope you can make it this year, Dan. That'd be great.
It's awesome. So there's, you mentioned obviously that you publish that great fantasy football consistency guide every year. What is it? I mean, obviously things have changed. Obviously offenses change, schemes change. But what is it, Bob, that you use as far as metrics or methods to kind of rank the players in this kind of ever-evolving NFL?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, the whole concept of this is it's very adjustable. So like on my website, which I kind of forgot about, Big Guy Fantasy Sports, we have tools on there that you can go in and it tracks the consistency for the prior years and each week as the season goes along. And you can go into those tools and put in your scoring method. So if you have a little bit of differences, whether it's maybe half point PPR or, whatever the case may be, you can see, and then it automatically adjusts the consistency factor. And that factor is what each player at their position have to earn over each week to be worthy of being a top 12 quarterback, top 24 running back, top 36. So we base it on 12-team leagues, but you can put in 10-team, you can change it to 10, you can change it to 14, and it readjusts for the number of players that would be in starting positions in that league. And then as they earn that, they earn. So if you're 100% consistent and you're a quarterback, based on our current clutch factor this year, which is about 20 points in a 4-point passing regular type scenario for quarterbacks, then that means every week they've been over 20 points. And the amazing thing is when people look at it and go, oh, you mean, so there's 0 quarterbacks that are 100% consistent after week 6. That's amazing because there should be more. Now, running backs, wide receivers, yeah. But tight ends and quarterbacks, like they're becoming one and the same. Like you used to be able to count on quarterbacks like Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts and, these kind of guys. But they're 80% consistent. Is that bad? Heck no, it's not bad. It's fantastic. But, you would think like these guys should be cranking out 20 points a week. And sometimes they don't. And people don't realize that and how that consistency factors because people will look at total points. When they're looking at their last year numbers, they're like, oh, look, this guy was 6 in total points. He must be a god. I should draft him. And then they look at my stuff and they're like, wait a minute. That guy wasn't consistent more than half the games? Like he didn't earn over 20 points in half the games? Yeah, and if you had him on your team and you didn't make the playoffs, now you know why. And that's what this is about, is sharing that information so people can take that next step. I don't know how many times you've heard it. I've heard it. Oh, my team's unlucky. They're unlucky. Because one week my team kicks ass and the next week they suck. So I'm just unlucky. Yeah. Maybe your team players are just really inconsistent. Because if you have like Jared Goff or you have, I'm trying to think of some wide receivers last year, all of a sudden I can look at a team and go, well, here, this guy, we're all inconsistent. So like they were barely 50, 60%. That's not going to get it done. And that's what the website is for. That's what the book is for, to make better decisions on more consistent players as you head into the season in your draft, and also to watch during the season on the website so you can follow which ones you may need to trade for or you need to trade out.
No, for sure. Really, give out that website again. I'll have and put it up on this.
It's just bigguyfantasysports.com. Yeah.
Yeah. People need to check that out. It's amazing too, Bob, because like obviously I played not as long as you have. I was in the early 90s is when I started. But I will say this. I used to love just drafting a quarterback. Like one of the years I won, I had Stafford when he broke all the records for the Lions. It was like 10 years ago. And I never wanted to have to worry about, benching him, putting someone else in. Those are not the way things are anymore. It is not. You don't have the down, the drop down, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, whoever, Stafford. You got to actually manage that team. And I love how you said that, Bob. I'm just unlucky. No, it's because you're not managing your team right. You got to look at, got to check out what bigguyfantasysports.com and what you're able to do there. I wanted to talk to you about some stuff that you've seen so far this year. We're past the quarter poll, if you will. We're obviously getting into week 7 after these 2 Monday night games tonight. So we're almost to the point where we're getting to the halfway point. I wonder what your thoughts are on MVP. You look at Baker Mayfield as far as odds go. I mean, obviously it's different for fantasy, signs than it is for the wagering odds. Mayfield's not the favorite. Josh Allen's still the MVP favorite. Mahomes, Mayfield's like 5-1. He's the third favorite. When it comes to what you've seen fantasy-wise, who do you think the MVP is as we get to the halfway point? And do you think there's going to be someone different at the end of the season?
Well, first off, let me be this person. I really get fed up of quarterbacks always winning the MVP. In my opinion, last year's MVP was Saquon Barkley.
100%.
Now, you can give it to whoever you want, but it was Saquon Barkley.
100% Saquon.
This year, I think it's Jonathan Taylor so far. I mean, he is putting that team. Granted, Daniel Jones is being serviceable, which is good enough for anybody. But Jonathan Taylor's got that team on his back, just like Saquon had the Eagles on his back. Now, whether he's going to take them to a Super Bowl, probably not. But when it's who is the most valuable player on the football field right now, Jonathan Taylor, in my opinion, is just hands down ahead. Now they're not going to give it to him because they're going to have to give it to a damn quarterback again. And it'll be
he's 100-1. He should be like 20-1 at worst.
Yeah, right. Mahomes now is on fire, so now we can, I would bet on Mahomes right now just because unless he dies, he'll probably win it because he'll get comeback player of the year and all this bullshit. Yeah. So, like I said, but again, Mahomes is having a good season so far. He's certainly been doing a much better job.
Has been way more impressive than Mahomes has been so far.
Yeah, but Jonathan Taylor, like I said, Josh Allen will be there for sure in the list. But like I said, there's some other players that have really made a big difference that should, but unless they're a quarterback, it usually doesn't happen.
Yep. No, another one that has too. He's like the sixth favorite is Drake May, 16-1, and no one's
right. Yeah.
No one's talking about it. Without Drake May, the Patriots might have 1 or 2 wins.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's a great example of a guy who is stepped up and with a pretty trashy team around him, is carrying the team on his back and they're winning football games. They beat the Bills. If they could beat the Bills one more time, it wouldn't surprise me if he has a good shot at it.
I had the Patriots like a 6-win team this year. I was way off on that. Please, everyone, make sure you can see it on the screen. Follow Bob at Bob_Long. A few more things for here, Bob. I can't thank you enough for joining me. Like I said, I can't wait to meet you in person because you are a legendary figure. If I'm like here legendary wise, you're way up here. So I can't wait to meet you. But when it comes to this, and I think people love, who that breakout star is. Before the season, I know obviously you talk about it with, the guides you put together and this expo tour. It's like, this is my breakup. For me, it was Armarian Hampton, which if he hadn't got hurt, maybe he would have been.
Right.
But who do you think, I know there's not just one, but if you had a couple breakout stars that maybe weren't on a lot of people's radar coming into the year, was it my man Tyler Warren? Is there someone else that you maybe think it was? Because obviously Warren's been going crazy. Who are those couple players for you?
Well, the one that was definitely highest on my list was Emeka Egbuka. Every Ohio State wide receiver that comes out is just a god. It's just
nuts.
Just ridiculous.
And I'm a Michigan fan, so I freaking hate it, Bob. But they're great.
and then every Buckeyes fan, who's all of my friends, are like, "And this Jeremiah Smith's supposed to be the best of them all." I'm like, "Holy cow!" But anyway, obviously he got hurt. And to be honest with you, I just said he should have a good year because we assume Mike Evans or Godwin won't be 100% healthy. They're getting up in years. And he'll definitely be ahead of, Sterling Shepard. I expected him to have, 4 catches, 50 yards per game, just, good, but not great. Well, then Evans goes down, Godwin goes down, and boom, this kid is as good as, I didn't expect him to be busting out like this. But then again, opportunity arose and he took advantage of it. And Baker Mayfield's taken advantage of it.
Sure is.
Without question. Hopefully it's not a serious injury for this hamstring. But it wouldn't also surprise me if they set him a few games just because their bye, I think, is week 9, week 10. So they may be cautious. I guess it depends on how much Godwin's going to come back. But he's one. Other guys that I liked, I was really high on Jake Ferguson having a comeback year because of last year with Dak going down. He didn't have that quarterback.
Right.
Now, again, he's getting more targets than ever because CeeDee Lamb has missed a few games, but he was definitely one of my favorite tight ends to draft. I have him on multiple teams.
Catch machine.
That's been a big help for me. Third one, I mean, quarterback-wise, I was in on Baker Mayfield because the consistency numbers showed he was ranked 3rd in consistency last year.
He was that high. I did not know
he was that high. He was right up there with Josh Allen and them. And, so like I had him ranked 6th on my board. So I drafted him quite a bit. And again, you got him in the later rounds. You didn't have to reach up. So he was definitely one of my favorites. And again, if everybody could stay healthy, if all those receivers could stay healthy, he could have a monster year. And he's not having a bad year as it is. So like you said, it's if everybody can get healthy and they can get Bucky Irving back and get that whole team healthy, they could be another one of those teams that will make a push, especially in the NFC right now.
Yep.
There's, the Eagles are not looking like the Eagles.
And my Lions blew last night, so I'm a little upset about that. I still think they're the best team in the NFC, but last night was not good.
Yeah.
When it comes to the Super Bowl, and maybe the Bucs are one of those teams, I mentioned this earlier, Bob. For me before the season, it was Buffalo and it was Washington. Buffalo finally getting the job done after those 4 straight losses back in the 90s and missing out on those epic games with the Chiefs. And so many times, maybe they could have gone to the Super Bowl but didn't. Like, this is their year if they stay healthy. Obviously, everything knock on wood is about staying healthy. So I'm going to stick with because I still love the Commanders, even though Daniels got hurt. That was my original pick, so I'm going to stick with it right now. But a team like the Colts, you mentioned the Bucs, definitely some dark horse candidates that could get there. I still like the Chargers too, to be that maybe other choice in the AFC. Who do you feel is the Super Bowl teams of the conferences this year? And do you have is the dark horse Tampa, or is there someone else you like that maybe is off the radar that could sneak in there?
Well, there was a lot of teams I think that had a chance, but every one of their damn quarterbacks got hurt between Joe Burrow and now Lamar Jackson. I mean, the Steelers, who I thought would be like third placed at best in this division, is going to run away with this because there's nobody else there. But I think that if I had to choose one, I really think and believe and hope that the Bills make it. They've been a very good team for years. I kind of compare them to the 1990s Cleveland Cavaliers, always having to play the damn Bulls and Michael Jordan every year. And to me, the Bills are the Cavs and the Chiefs are the damn Bulls. They keep running into them when it's, they beat them when in the regular season and they can't beat them in the playoffs. But I'm hoping they take them out, get to the playoffs. I'd love to see Buffalo finally win one for sure. On the NFC side, like you said, that is right now, in my opinion, just an open wheelhouse. I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles make it. I also wouldn't be surprised if they don't. Like you said, Tampa, if they can get their defense a little improved and get that offense in full gear and full power, they are certainly a team to be reckoned with. The rest of the NFC East, I mean, Cowboys are okay. Washington's okay. Jaden Daniels has not been impressive.
No.
Yeah, he could be anybody. I mean, like you said, I
would
love for Tampa to go just so I can keep rubbing it in my Browns fans' faces that Baker Mayfield should have been here, should have stayed here. But
by the way, somewhere Craig Eagle is smiling when you brought up those 90s Cavaliers teams. I'm a Pistons guy, but I felt bad because all they kept going against Jordan and the Bulls. You can't beat them. Bob, before I let you go, and thanks again so much for joining me. We'll have to do this again for sure soon. You've been around for a long time, and I don't say that meaning you're old. You're just legendary. But you obviously are one of the really most respected guys when it comes to fantasy. I'm sure you have a million different stories, but is there one when it comes to like your favorite win from one of your leagues? Or obviously, as you talked about, this consistency guide you do, which is such an important thing, where maybe a win was because of that consistency framework that proved so decisive because of stuff that other people weren't looking at and you were.
Yeah, I like you said, there are many. I think one of the ones that was the first one that made really stuck with me is when I was getting into the fantasy community as an expert. I was invited to play in one of the expert leagues. It was put on by the Huddle, which is David Dorey's group. And I was playing against Howard Bender and Bob Harris and all these names that, I just idolized. And they did an auction league. And the second year in for the next, so starting my second year of playing in that league, I won 2 out of the next 3 championships.
Wow.
And really all of a sudden, I think people took notice and, I'm using my consistency, but because my home league had always done auction, I felt very comfortable in that scenario. A lot of people don't. They just feel overwhelmed and they don't understand the values and how and when to stop and when to go an extra buck. And so that was kind of that, moment that kind of pushed me up into the, hey, we got to take notice. Bob's pretty good at this and he's won a couple of championships and beat all of us people. And, I got a lot of respect out of it, but I always appreciated, and I tell the story because I always say to Howard, and I'm like, you guys invited me. So
I was going to say, like, did they request? Because I was invited to a pickup league once, and I won like 7 weeks in a row. Like, it was a cigar club, guys. They're like, let's kick this guy out. So, but you deserve to be invited. You prove that you're one of the best, and thank God they did, because that's, the rest is history.
Yeah. But, everything, I mean, every time something happens, whether it's the expo, the book, the whatever, it just amazes me again. And I think a lot of us have said it. The fact that we're doing this, making some money, sharing this with others, building this community. 1986, when I started playing fantasy football, I didn't think it would even last 5 years, right? Like, who's going to do this? But praise God for the internet, I guess, because that's what took it that level. We didn't have to do it by hand. And it's just, like you said, such great stories. Nothing makes me happier in the same way you talked about your nephew, is watching a dad showing up with his kid or nephew or uncle or, whatever. And now it's a family thing, family leagues and, bringing the family together at the event, because, it's not Disney World, but for those two, it's a fantasy, right? It's man, I got to meet Bob Harris or Howard Bender, Marcus Grant from NFL. I've seen him on TV, and, they're celebrities and they understand that. I mean, I always still feel very weird when people are like, will you sign my book? And I'm like, what? Okay. But
you're a celebrity too, my friend.
I know. And I know it's just hard for me to, to understand, because I'm like, I'm not on television, but I appreciate it. And I thank everybody for feeling that way. And, because I felt the same way when I met Bob Harris and Howard Bender and Andy Behrens the first time. Like, I'm not worthy kind of thing, right? But it's just been a great moment. And, now getting into this, meeting the guys from Bull Rush, I think this is a super cool concept of, letting everybody kind of bet with some play money, but it's a competition too. And I'm not even a big sports bettor, but I'm really digging this. So
it's awesome, right?
I hope more people play it next year. We get more and more people involved.
Yep, the future is here. Well, Bob, keep creating these lasting memories. You've done such an amazing job bringing people together of so many different, shapes, sizes, and ways of life, and it's such a cool thing. So I mean, I just can't thank you enough for doing what you do. Obviously, an honor to have you on today. I can't wait to meet you in person. Definitely going to come and see you at the expo too. But I just hope you can take a step back and realize how many people you've affected in such a positive way in a world we live in right now that needs as much of that as we can get. So you are a high-level guy, Bob Long. Make sure everyone goes to BigGuyFantasySports.com. Follow Bob on social media, Bob_Long. Bob, it was a true pleasure talking to you. Can't wait to hear it again. And keep up the great work.
Thank you. Tell all the guys I said hi.
Absolutely. There he is, the incredible Bob Long. Please go to BigGuyFantasySports.com. And he brought up such an important point about the consistency factor and how people look at the way he described it. I'm unlucky. We're unlucky. My dad and my team is unlucky. I should have done this. We should have. It's about consistency. And these days in the NFL, things are changing. As I mentioned, schemes and offenses and the way they use quarterbacks, the way they use running backs, tight ends, etc. Bob has been on the forefront of this. Just awesome stuff. Great to talk with him. One of my favorite interviews we've done on this show so far. Look forward to having him on again, and can't wait to see the Fantasy Expo up close and personal, because I know Davin and Trent and Neil, all the guys from Bull Rush, were just raving about it. All right, great stuff for Bob. Don't forget to follow him on social media at Bob_Long. I want to throw this on for a second here, and then we're going to close it out with some huge squatch same-game parlays, some look-ahead lines, and a couple surprises as always on the Monday Night Edge with Dan Leach. Take a look at this first.
Welcome to Bull Rush, the ultimate arena where competition meets strategy. Challenge your friends in fantasy sports, picking competitions where every decision counts. Prove you really know the game by climbing the leaderboard, outsmarting your rivals, and locking in bragging rights. It's a battle of instincts, strategy, and sports knowledge. Ready to make your picks? Get ready for Bull Rush. Visit bullrush.com today. Are you in?
I sure hope you're in. One of those surprises is I normally tell Davin I'm going to bring him on the show. I didn't tell this week because we had Bob on, but I'm bringing him on anyway. So we promised we do this every week. as long as the Ravens kept losing, the Davin panic meter. So Davin, head in for a second here. Last week, I believe you were at a 6.5, and you decided that if they lost, you wouldn't give me the full number, but I know it was getting close to 8 or 9. So where is the Davin Ravens panic meter? And remember, last week I was your therapy. I'm your therapist. I'm trying to make you feel better. I'm not rubbing it in, but when you're 1-5 in the AFC and now you dropped to 22-1, which is still ridiculous, early 22-1 to win the Super Bowl, but they're like the 12th favorite now. Where are you at on the panic meter?
Well, so if we're talking about the Ravens, how they are the Ravens right now, which aren't the real Ravens, I'm going to say
this is like they're imposters.
Yeah, correct. It's not. It doesn't count. None of this counts. Yeah, there's a fluke in the time warp 2 weeks ago. Something happened.
So basically, if you've seen Back to the Future 2, we're in an alternate timeline.
Correct.
Gift stole Gray's Sports Almanac, and that's why the Ravens suck.
Correct. And after our bye week in week 9, we're gonna veer back into our universe, and we're gonna make the greatest comeback in NFL football history. But my fear meter is at like an 8.5. I would say if we're talking 8.5 to getting close to 9.
I think I wasn't gonna say this, but I have to now because it's hilarious. When we were prepping for the show, you told me that they're gonna make it. I'm like, what do you think? Like, they're going to make a documentary about the Ravens. I'm like, all right, this guy's out.
Just wait.
What's going to be called? Quote the Ravens evermore?
It's just going to be called The Comeback or just Evermore.
Evermore is probably the title.
I like Evermore better.
Maybe it will just be like a beat-up Raven that somehow has a Lombardi trophy in its hands.
It's going to be all of the Ravens that were injured in the beginning of this year in like crutches and wheelchairs in the beginning, and they're just going to be holding a Super Bowl trophy.
Before I let you go, and thanks as always, even though this time I didn't tell you I was bringing you on, Bob, such great stuff with Bob. I know you were at the Fantasy Football Expo.
Yeah,
I wanted to give you a chance for a minute here to let people know what it was like for you and Trent and the guys to be there in person. I know we talked about it. You raved about it. Even that 24-hour drive that you took to get there was worth it. Tell me about what it was like.
The drive I'm never doing again, but I will fly up there next year because it was amazing. It was.
I thought you guys were taking a Winnebago next year.
I mean, that would be better. The car just is not. It's not it. Overall, though, no, it was great. Like Bob said, it really did feel like a big family. I haven't played fantasy football in like 4 or 5 years, and even when I did, I've only played it for 1 season, so I'm not too familiar with it. But everybody there was amazing. Everybody's like literally feels like family there. He was right. It does feel kind of like a frat party, a lot of drinking, but in all the good, best ways, none of the hazing or bad things of frats. But no, it was amazing. I learned a ton about, fantasy football, learned a ton about just football in general. There's sports picking companies there. The actual expo part of the event was really great. It's beautiful venue. You mentioned it before. It's in Canton, Ohio, so it's actually at the Fantasy Football Hall of Fame and in the different buildings. So the convention is at the big field where they do practice. It's like on the practice field, the indoor practice field. They do a bunch of drafts, like one in the museum, one in the actual Fantasy Football Hall of Fame. All different places. So it's a really great experience, especially if you're into fantasy football. And I think we'll definitely be coming back next year. Lots of outside of that. Last thing I want to say about the Fantasy Football Expo, I've never been to an event with more things going on. It was constantly, there was things in the morning, things in the middle of the day, things at night. It was like there's constantly things going on. It was really interactive, really fun.
That's right up the Squatch's alley because I'm nonstop, man.
Oh, they had not, what do you call cornhole tournament. They had all these different little games and tournaments. They had a poker tournament there. Unfortunately, I missed it this year, but I definitely want to come back next year and play in that.
I'm a big poker guy. I got to play in that for sure.
Oh yeah. So it was a lot of fun. I definitely want to come back and we missed the first day, so we want to come back and experience all of it next time.
All right. Well, David, thanks as always. Great job on the show. A few things I want to get to here before we get out of here. As I mentioned with Bob, we talked about the Pats and what Drake May has done. He is and they're that's going to be a playoff team. Oh, David, you want to put me on, not you. You look great though. How about the Hawks? 3,000 miles away in Jacksonville. After Jacksonville's, kind of a hangover for the Jags. We expected that. I thought they played a little better, though, but that's a dangerous Seattle team. They are playing really, really, really good football. They are very, very, very well coached. And you look at what Darnold's been able to do, not just for Minnesota last year, but now Seattle. Where was that when he was the first overall pick? Just unbelievable stuff with him. And even it wasn't even that good of a game for Kenneth Walker, but they're finding ways to get it done. They won 20-12. Very impressed with the 4-2 Seahawks. Bucs continue to show they're probably the NFL's most balanced team, if not in the top 2 or 3 at worst. Is Baker the MVP right now? I think he's definitely made a great case for it. I still can't believe when you look at his odds, he's 5-1. Mahomes, obviously on name. Not that he doesn't deserve to be in the conversation. Of course he does. But until yesterday, he hadn't really played that great. He's, plus 270. Josh Allen the favorite, plus 140. I would take Baker right now because as long as the Bucs keep winning, it's not going to be based on necessarily if they have as good of a record as the Bills do. If Mayfield's it should be the most valuable player. If he's the main reason, it continues to be, and obviously quarterback's most important position in all sports, he should win the MVP. But obviously it's tough because they'll go with the Allens and Mahomes before. I also like Jared Goff, even though he wasn't spectacular last night. He's been incredible. He's still 15-1. Drake May 16-1. Those are a couple of players to take a look at as well. All right, let's get to the Squatch same game parlay for tonight. To me, both dogs are barking. I don't think both dogs are going to win outright. But when you look at where we're at with these two games, starting with the Bills and Falcons, I think the Falcons are a live dog. I bought them up here, or didn't buy them up, all spreaded them to 7.5 on Bull Rush, and I parlayed it with the Commanders' money line. Can the Bears win that game? Yes, but I do believe Washington home. By the way, this is an important thing. Always check weather this time of year. Always check weather, always, if you're wagering on games. But right now it is 58 degrees in D.C. It is raining. It is windy. And that means a lot of running, which I like Jaden Daniels props. We'll get to the other play I'll do at dinner in a second. As far as rushing and maybe they're not there's not going to be as many passing yards and airing the ball out down the field as there would be. So the weather is a factor, but always check the weather when it comes to wagering on games. So I did this on Bull Rush for the Survivor contest, and then here's my other play on Bull Rush. Josh Palmer for Buffalo over 1.5 receptions. I love that tonight, even though it's going to be one of those things where he's not going to be used at the highest level, but the weather obviously is a factor, or is not a factor in the dome. But you look at him and Pitts, reception yards for Pitts over 42. Now I think he has a big game in that Bills-Atlanta game, and the Commanders-Bears game, which I mentioned, weather factors. Daniels rushing yards over 46.5. He might have 70, 80 by the time the game is done if there's really bad weather issues making it harder to throw. And then DeAndre Swift for the same reason. Caleb Williams likes to find him 2, 3, 4 times a game anyway. Weather being a factor, he might have some short passes. His receptions over 2.5. I put those 4 legs together. It's almost 9-1. So I think I bet 1,100 to win about 10,500. So those are my 2 plays on Bull Rush. I've got a play that I made elsewhere. Josh Allen over 200 yards passing. Obviously, don't need to worry about that. As far as weather goes, Drake London to have 6 receptions. I think he has another huge game for the Falcons. Kyle Pitts, 30 or more receiving yards. And then in that game, when it comes to the Commanders and Bears, and not the most ideal weather, Ertz, reliable tight end, could be some short passes for him, 3 or more receptions. Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, 1 or more receptions. He should have 2 or 3. And Jaden Daniels, just 25 rushing yards or more. His number is total, his over-under is 46.5. So I'm going very safe there. And that was 40, plus 460 before I boosted it myself. But I still love it at plus 460, plus 500, about 5-1, 4.5 to 5-1. That's my play, the Squatches same game parlay play for tonight's twofer. And then to take a look ahead, as we always do, I got 4 plays for you when it comes to week 7. The Jags plus 3 against the Rams. It's back in Jacksonville. I want you to buy it to 3.5. The Jags, obviously, as I mentioned, were very sleepy on Demerol or Robitussin after that huge win over Kansas City. They will have a big week of practice. Rams have to travel across the country. I love the Rams, but the Rams, they were in Baltimore. They're going back to LA, back out to Jacksonville, the other side of the country. The Jags might lose the game, but it's going to be close. I think Trevor Lawrence recovers from the bad game he had in the loss to Seattle, and I like the Jags plus the 3.5, so buy that. Eagles on the road at Minnesota, who's coming off a bye. Eagles, we'll see if J.J. McCarthy's healthy or not. They've got to turn things around. Minus 2.5. This is not like a full throat play, but I like the Eagles to get healthy, to get well, and I like them even though Minnesota's been on the bye. So give me the Philly minus 2.5. How about the Panthers at the Jets? You got to love what Carolina's doing. Are they going to have a letdown for that big win over the Cowboys to get to 3-3? You're seeing incredible stuff from former Cowboy Rico Donnell. He had 30 carries for 183 yards. Bryce Young is playing much better football than he had, obviously, earlier in his career. The Jets are god-awful. I know it's a road game, but give me the Panthers, lay the 1.5, take the money line, whatever you want there. I think the Panthers win that game going away. The Jets are just to the point where they're about to give up and all is lost, if they haven't already. I know there's a lot of pride in NFL players, but things are bad in New York. The Bucs and Lions, a game I'll be covering Monday Night Football. I think the Lions are going to win this game. They played the Bucs tough a couple times here at Ford Field. Lost one last year, won the playoff game a couple years ago. It's 5.5. I think it's way too big. Bucs plus 5.5 at Ford Field. I think the Lions win this game, but it's close. I like the Bucs plus the points early. That line probably is going to go down. You can even buy it up to 7.5 through that key number if you want. Could I see Tampa winning that game? Absolutely. Like the Lions, who've been one of the best teams in the NFL under Dan Campbell after losses, and the Lions still do have the best record through the last, 52 games in the NFL, because they were 39-10 going into the last couple of games under Dan Campbell. That's the best mark in the NFL. They will recover, probably win this game, but it could be very, very, very close. So those are my 4 look at plays. Jags up to 3.5 plus 3.5. Eagles minus 2.5 at Minnesota. Panthers minus 1.5 at the Jets, and the Bucs plus 5.5 at the Lions. I like it up to 7.5 as well. If you want to put it in teasers, even put it up even more, or you can do the alt spread up to 7.5 through that key number of 7, which could be the final score. Could be 28-21, could be 35-28. We'll see. Don't forget to go to bullrush.com, get the NFL Survivor satellite contest. Use the code EDGE for that $20 entry to become a $15 entry. All you got to do is finish in the top 10. You get into the main draw of the Bull Rush Survivor contest, which after week 20, first place, $50,000. And there's going to be money for first, second, and third starting in week 11. Get involved. It's a great way to get in if you missed getting in before the actual season started. All right, that's going to do it for us here today. Want to thank Bob Long again. Big thanks to him. Follow him on Twitter at Bob_Long. Also go to BigGuyFantasySports.com. Of course, want to thank my man Davin, the greatest producer in all the land, and most importantly, all of you. It's why we do this show. I love doing it, but I love the interconnectedness of all of us. So please keep bringing those comments in. We love you sharing the show, and we'll be here each and every week at 6 p.m. on Monday night, most of the time. So it's a little early like tonight. Got some family stuff going on and things that are always exciting happening in the Squatch's life. But thanks so much for watching. And until next time, keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, and believe in the dream. Dan Leach the Squatch for the Monday Night Edge with Dan Leach saying so long. Until next time, we'll see you then. Believe in the dream. I'm out of here.